What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fitness Oracle. Today, we sit down with Sammy Warrayat, who started his podcast in order to help spread his positivity and actionable tips to get closer to achieving success in five major categories, which is he defines as happiness, career and purpose, money, physical, mental health, and relationships. We get into a lot of great topics with this episode, where we talk about, where we dig deep into the vanity and the physical appearance, exercise, and its effect on mental health tricks to help you stay grounded, effects of helping others, and building strong habits for hard times. This is a really great episode. We get into a lot of really interesting topics. He's a millennial that helps other millennials achieve great things in their lives and helps others, and helps them understand that helping others will help them as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this show, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you, with real stories just like yours, and this is one of their stories. I am your host, John Kutsavos. My guest today is Sammy Warrayat. Warrayat. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Okay, good. I hate pronouncing people's last names wrong. It drives me nuts.
It's all good.
From Successful Millennials Podcast. Sammy is an avid learning enthusiast who loves reading, hiking, sports, and traveling. He was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and is currently living around wherever the world takes him. His focus is on financial freedom, which has been crucial to his outlook on life. He started this podcast in order to help spread positivity and actionable tips to get closer to achieving success in five major categories: happiness, career purpose, money, physical, mental health, relationships, which include intimate, familial, and social. Sammy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me.
So how's your new book coming along?
It's going well. I'm trying to start it and go forward with it, but really just been reading more and trying to figure out how to develop a message from a written perspective. I think there's public speaking that I've been doing and that type of conversational tone, but written aspect is something that's extremely different in terms of identifying the emotions that you want your reader to have. So it's kind of going back and forth, but we'll get there eventually.
Awesome. You gotta let me know when that book comes out because I want to read it. I love reading too.
Thank you.
You focus quite a bit on finances, and how have you found the educational system when you were in school, when they were talking about finances? Because I found it terrible.
Yeah, non-existent, terrible. Those are almost synonymous in this case. And we didn't even cover it at all. And it goes back and forth. Like, would a high schooler even be able to comprehend things like that, like balancing a checkbook and all that stuff that really isn't even used today? Because we're not really making quote unquote real money in high school, at least not most of us. But the principles of how to live below your means and live with a purpose and intentionality with your money, I think can be taught in the educational system in high school, but definitely in college for those who go. And it wasn't there, unfortunately. And that's kind of what drew me into it. And my parents were immigrants who didn't really learn. They had to learn on their feet and they had their struggles. So I tried to learn from their mistakes as well to kind of set myself up to be able to take risks, to be able to live wherever I want to live and do what I want to do, because otherwise you're chaining what you can do based on the money, right? And that's kind of why I focus mostly on finances, because otherwise you're sacrificing, for example, the job you want to work at, or job you don't like but you have to because it pays the bills, or the relationship you're in because you're codependent on, your significant other's salary. And the place you want to live, like if you want to live in California but it's too expensive. Like these things are monetary restrictions that affect other areas of your life, whether that be your overall happiness or your relationships or whatever. That's why I think money focus is extremely important to button down as early as possible.
That's awesome. Did you find that there's some kind of generational gap between your parents and yourself when it came to their concept of money?
That's a great question. Yeah, I definitely do. I think they were more open to working a job they didn't like because they eschewed their like not necessarily their responsibilities, but their passions because of their responsibilities. So like, okay, I maybe don't like this job, but I have a wife and kids, and it doesn't matter what I do. I need to put food on the table for them. So they were very big on that, where I think our generation, the millennials, are less inclined to do that. They would rather push out having a family and pushing out those responsibilities so that they can work in something they love doing. And I think that's the right idea, because you look at the older generation and they just don't like their job. They imagine like going 10, 11 hours a day with work and commute and something that you don't like just to come home. And that's going to affect your mental health eventually, right? It's going to affect your relationship, the way you treat your wife and your kids, and or your husband and your kids. And it's just not something that you want to do. And I think our generation has been really good at that. But unfortunately, some of us have had a nihilistic approach towards money and why is it even important, and that area, which is a little negative. But
Yeah. When it comes to like conversations with like my parents, I'm in the same boat as you. My parents were both immigrants to Canada, and I find it hard talking to them about the concept of what you just said. So how would you speak to that generation?
I think it's similar to what I tell every client I have is, why do you want to earn money, right? Besides the basic needs, which is, depending on the area you live, roughly 60, 70,000 annual salary for a single person is good enough in America to get by, right? Anything above that is your determining factor. Why do you want to have extra money? Is it because you want to travel more? Is it because you want to help other people? Is it because you want to buy expensive things? Is it narrowing down what that is important to figure out what drives you to do it. And then that's where you would figure out, okay, I don't really need this. And I impulsively buy a bunch of things that I don't enjoy, and I don't use my money. And then I'm upset because I'm working in something I don't like to earn money that I'm not even using for things that I like. So it's like a double negative. And so I really focusing on why you want to earn every dollar helps you not only, one, save more money to spend it on those things, but two, earn more money so that you can spend it on those things you love doing. So it's kind of reciprocal in that nature if you figure out your intentionality of why.
That's awesome. I love that. I love trying to figure out your why. I base everything in my life is, why am I doing this? Um, Switching gears a little bit from the finances
Sure.
to you. You were a personal trainer at one point.
No, I love working out.
Oh, you love working out. Okay. Hey, that's a good excuse to get into personal training industry.
Yeah.
You love to do it. You love to work out and you help other people. Um, there's a lot of vanity that comes in with physical appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that as a negative thing for humans?
No, and I could share a story of why I started working out. So I was always like the athletic skinny kid, whether it be soccer, basketball. Those are kind of the sports I played growing up, and even running. So like anything that was pretty much a skinny kid can excel at, that would be perfect. And then when I graduated college, I hurt my shoulder playing football, and I wasn't able to work out. I wasn't able to play basketball or anything. And then, you start sitting in a corporate lifestyle that's more sedentary versus the college lifestyle that you're all running around. Plus, you only have one lunch meal, and I would always make that a buffet because I was living on, college level mindset, quantity over quality. So that I gained a lot of weight. Essentially, I gained like maybe 30, 40 pounds. And then on my 21st birthday, I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I want to go to Vegas in August. So that would be like a 5, 6 month timeline. And I want to be in the best shape ever. So it was extremely vanity purposes only. Like, I had my birthday in March and August was Vegas. So that 5 months, I was like, I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. So I was never huge on working out until then. And I started working out. I started liking the amount of, weight that you could start moving. And then I started eating a little bit cleaner, and then I would plateau, start eating a little bit cleaner, started throwing in cardio and just continuously, consistently working out no matter what, for the goal of Vegas. And that was literally it. And when I got back from Vegas, I was like, you know what, I might as well just keep going, because now I'm actually really enjoying the way that my body looks and the way that I feel, which is even more important, I think. And that's the key crux, is even though it may have started for vanity, now the way you feel about your body, it gives you that self-confidence, and even Deion Sanders has said this, look good, feel good, play good, right? It's that type of mindset that makes you now feel more comfortable and confident. And then that's been years now, 5, 6 years. And I've only missed working out when they shut down everything for COVID. That's the only time I would ever miss a consistent week at the gym.
That's awesome. So how much time is involved when it comes to, transforming your body like that.
Mhm.
As a personal trainer, I get it all the time. It's like, oh, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. What would you say to somebody like that? Because I have my answer, but what would you say? It's like, now that you know that, because you did that transition from one to
Mhm.
the other in 5, 6 months, what would you say to somebody like that?
Oh yeah, you're not going to be a bodybuilder in any short period of time. Like, there's so many different ways to train your body. You're not going to accidentally wake up one day and be as big as Phil Heath or Arnold or any of the main guys, right? Like, that's just not going to happen. It is not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's intentional. And there's so many different ways you can sculpt your body based on the way you work out, based on the way you eat and the way you rest. So if you don't want to be a bodybuilder, then don't train like a bodybuilder. Train like any other person who wants to be something else. So whether it be, physique, whether that be, straight power lifting, it could be a bunch of different things, but you could just tone up if you want. And that's like, you're not going to become huge as a bodybuilder other than if that's why you want to work out. So I guess that's my answer. That's why I laughed as soon as you asked the question, because I get it a lot too. Like, especially like, unfortunately, women, I feel like, have that. As soon as, if they feel like they train arms or anything one day, they're gonna have like man arms. This is not gonna happen. Like, it's a very long cycle to build muscle. That's part of the grind and part of why you love it, is because if it was instant, then you wouldn't appreciate it. You would just regress very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. And the amount of food you have to consume, the amount of supplementation that you have to do, it's just you don't have the amount of time in the day if you've got a 9 to 5 job, a family, to do that. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule, but they're very few.
Yeah, they're not going to be world level, because like Jay Cutler, even he has I've seen videos of him. His rice cooker is on 24/7 making rice, and he eats every 2 hours. And it's just, you're not going to do that by accident. I'm
Yeah.
with you there.
Another thing that I actually see in the gym are, especially with, I don't want to put labels on it, but the stay-at-home moms, they look at these bigger guys in the gym and they're like posing in front of the mirror, and they're looking at their growth, and you see these intimidated people in the gym. And a big part of people not going to the gym is because of this misconceived intimidation that
Yep.
is going on with other people.
Right.
What would you say to somebody who's who has that misconception? Because you and I both know what the gym
Mhm.
means to us. It's
Mhm.
it's a sacred place.
Yep. Honestly, those people, like the massive, huge guys, and even the ladies that are like really, really strong, they're the nicest people because they've been there the longest. The person that you would be more quote unquote intimidated by of judging is going to be the person who just started and thinks they're like hot shit, for lack of a better word. The people who have been there for years are a very supportive community because it's you against the weights, and that's it. Like, doesn't matter if you had a good day, bad day at work, you had a great relationship, you just broke up with your girl or your man, and doesn't matter any of that. The weight is the weight, and you're gonna have to push it. And if you can, you can. If you can't, the weight wins that day. And everybody who has been to the gym consistently knows that. And if like you see somebody struggling, they'll want to help. And I would, my suggestion would be just ask them a question on your form, or ask them a question to invite that if you feel like intimidated, and you'll see how nice they are to help out, and that'll kind of ease your conceptions of them, because like that they're really nice people. And at the risk of sounding extremely jockey, but like that's the people you want to be around, and they'll be very supportive.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I brought this up for a purpose, because it's not just in the gym that this is important, because this is also important in finance and if the financial side to it. Like the people who are most successful are the ones that are trying to help the most. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, 100%. Anytime you have somebody who's quote unquote ahead of you, a few steps ahead of you on either a corporate ladder, or either their financial journey or their physical health journey via the gym, those type of people want to bring other people up along with them, because they want to see other people see the benefits that they've been receiving from, whether it be the confidence of being physically fit, whether it be the confidence of being financially free, or having the ability to lead others and help them grow and see their side of things. So I think it's sometimes the people that we're quote unquote most scared of or intimidated by are the people that we actually should be seeking out for just conversation and advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Again, you and I both know how important exercise is, especially when it comes to mental health. It is crucial. It's probably the most important aspect to a proper mental health. What was your journey with exercise when it came to uh, getting into a proper mindset?
Mm. So growing up, childhood was a little rough. And even now, when there's bad days, it used to be I would go outside and just shoot hoops and basketball hoop outside in the neighborhood, or we had a hoop in our backyard. And that was really big, just to clear out, like not listen to music, not even play a game, just like shooting around and kind of de-stress. And so, like you mentioned, like I think everybody who listens to this podcast will resonate as well, is working out helps not only physically but mentally, is because you're letting that out, and you're de-stressing, decompressing. And now, like working out every day is kind of been that. Basketball is still probably up there in terms of the most important thing to de-stress, but working out has been just as beneficial to release those, I get the stress hormones or whatever you want to actually call it. But the journey that I had was mostly just figuring out why I was struggling mentally in any different area, whether it be like my career was not going the way I wanted it to. I didn't see eye to eye with leadership. I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do. I know that there's one thing that I can do that would make it okay. And that was going to the gym and just having a good lift and having a good day would reset the whole day, and I'll be fine after that. So it's definitely a way to decompress. I know a lot of people work out in the morning so that they can use that high the whole day. I personally am not able to do that. I'm not strong enough in the morning. So like for me, it was my afternoon workouts that would de-stress the entire day's stress of work, and then I'd be good to go at night. And the last few hours of the day were awesome.
That's yeah. Um, what are some of the things that you do? Like, what's I'll probably ask you this question again. So, what's a couple suggestions that you have to improve this? Because there's a lot of people out there right today, here, especially here in Toronto, that can't get to the gym.
Yeah, Yeah, Canada's had it really rough. So I definitely feel bad. And when it shut down, and well, in Atlanta, luckily it only shut down for a month and a half for COVID. That was a very tough month. And I had to go, I went driving because they took the rims out of basketball parks. Like they took the rims down so you couldn't play basketball. Obviously, gyms were closed. So I started driving around, and there was this church that had a portable basketball hoop. And I would just go there and shoot around every day, kind of harkening back to the days when I was a kid. And you have to find something like to do that, or just run in a park and get some sort of sweat in. I know there's home videos, but I'm sure people are sick of being at home. So getting out in the sun is important. And before I found that hoop outside on that church, I was running, and I hate running. But just getting out there and getting in the sun, getting some sort of sweat is 100 times better than sitting at home all day every day. So I would say if you can find some sort of sport, that would be great. If not, hiking trails are awesome. If not, just run outside, and not in your neighborhood. Go somewhere a little bit farther, ideally in an area of sun. I know Canada winters are probably not the place for that, but some sort of idea where you get a sweat in, and it actually feels really good when you're running in cold weather. That's another thing like I've noticed.
Well, I personally hate the cold, so
Hmm.
live my entire life here. I hate the cold.
I don't know how you do it, man.
I keep joking that I was born in the wrong country.
Yeah, I would say move to someplace else in Canada, but that doesn't really help the problem.
No, it doesn't. Um, one of the biggest things that people have been kind of, I would say, like forced to, but not really. It's kind of weird because I've noticed people are finding different ways of grounding themselves.
Hmm.
Right? How important is it for you for people to stay grounded? Because I'm noticing a lot of people doing yoga more and this and mindset stuff, but it just seems like people like me, for example, like I'll do something and then I'll wean off of it,
Mhm.
right? So for you, how important do you think it is to stay in that grounded, environment that you created for yourself?
Yeah, and I'm the same way, John. Like I try to meditate, and then I'll do it for a while, and then sometimes I won't, and I'll pull back. And I don't have a great consistency of my mental wellness routine as well as the gym routine that I've built. I know it affects it positively, but what I used to do and what I do, sporadically at this time is in the morning, as soon as I wake up, I'll sit outside on my porch and look at the trees for about 10 minutes without my phone, with nothing, and just like look at the trees, let my mind wander, kind of like you said, ground yourself and let your mind wander. And we don't do that enough in today's information age because social media, news, Twitter, everything is like instantaneous. So that you can't even like not think about anything. It's always something is going to be there to grab your attention. So doing that in the first 10 minutes of the day is awesome. And on days where I wake up early enough to do that, and before the day takes you, I'll do that. And days where it doesn't, what I used to do is do the same thing while I'm driving home or when I'm driving to an errand or something. I just won't. I normally listen to podcasts, and then if I need to have a wellness, routine that day, I will not listen to anything and just again let my mind wander while driving. It works better for whatever reason at night, maybe because there's less cars and traffic. But when you're just cruising and you're letting your mind wander while driving, you're kind of allowing your mind to wander and ground yourself. So those two things I'll do, not every day because I just there's days where you miss it, but I try to do that very constantly in order to ground myself mentally and let it really just be like an information dump is the big thing, just to clear your mind because there's so much things going on, and you have to take a step back at times.
Do you find that you're able to focus a lot more when you're when you do that routine?
Yeah, afterwards, inevitably, your mind will wander into something work related, just how we're wired. And wherever it goes, it goes. But sometimes it's something like a business idea. Sometimes it's something that oh, I should have texted this person and like, I haven't seen them in a while. Let me try to extend this relationship. It should be like, okay, I want to change my goal from this to this, and you allow your mind to explore things that you would never thought of. So I think that's really good. And I do find that if I'm doing it, like if it's a longer car ride, those are the times where like, okay, I start hitting a real rhythm and I'll come up with ideas. Whereas the morning 10-minute meditation is more just to put myself in a good mindset to crush the day.
No, I'm totally agreeance with you with the driving part. Like I love long drives. Not so much here in Ontario. I mean, it's pretty flat here. But when I was in Greece, just driving through the mountains, and it's just I miss it.
Yeah.
Even though driving through the mountains in Greece is not something that I recommend for everybody to do, but it was. If you let your mind wander a little bit too much, you might go fly off the mountain. It's
Exactly.
not a happy time. So what got you into like getting into that whole mindset grounding technique? What was that about? How did you get into it?
I think it was due to that role that I was in a couple of years ago where it wasn't good for my mental health and there was just leadership issues and I was trying to grow and it wasn't seemingly happening. Senior leadership didn't like that approach and there was just, back and forth with that. And I had gotten introduced into podcasts about a year before that. And I was listening to more like either finances or, what do I want to do in my life type podcasts. And then I was like, let me figure out how to work on me. So I started listening to some guys like, Jay Shetty and the like. And then I started just applying it on the way back on the commutes because I felt like I needed it. Like on those days where I would have like a bad day at work and I wouldn't feel motivated, I almost didn't even want to go to the gym. And I knew I was like, well, I have to go to the gym. Like, I know that, but I didn't enjoy it for that period of time. And I was like, I don't want to force myself to go to the gym because you're not going to be as effective. So I had to that really forced me to work on my mental health to put myself in a position where, okay, why am I going to the gym? What's the reason? Why do I like it? Kind of re-answer those questions, re-get either grounded or motivated, whatever you want to use. And then get more effective in the gym again, which then helped your mental health. And it just became a cycle that really uplifted me out of that spot because I'm not gonna say it's like depression or anything, but it was rough where when you identify yourself with the role that you're in and that role kind of isn't what you imagined it to be, you take that personally and you shouldn't do that. You should be more than just the single role you're at.
It's so true. And we've been dancing around this question that is popping into my head, and it comes to change. And change is probably one of the scariest things that a human being can do because it takes them out of a state of comfort to unknown, which is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help somebody to guide them into the change?
That's a really tough question, but it's the one that I think needs to be answered, and everybody has different ways to do it. For me, it was always taking a step back and looking at the current situation that I'm afraid to leave, right? And I'll take the example of the role that I was in, right? Like I thought I was in a good role in my age range. I was making great money, and in paper it was great, but I knew I needed to find something else for my mental health. And that's kind of why the 5 categories came into play, because I knew it wasn't just the money in the career, it was other things that were also really important, such as mental health. And so I looked at it and I was like, if I were to continue in this role, I would inevitably lose the motivation for the gym and I would inevitably spiral down my mental health, and that would directly impact my happiness. Versus if I leave, I may or may not love what I'm doing, but I will inevitably find the role where it could be better. And it could be the same. That's the other thing. I think what makes us fearful of change is, what if I leave and it's a brand new company or brand new role or brand new whatever you're changing, and it's exactly like it originally was? Okay, that's the worst case scenario, though, right? That's my response is it can't get worse than what you're currently in. It can at the worst thing, it'll be the same as where you're currently at. But there's an off chance it could be better. And that's what you have to focus on, because if there's a chance of it being the same, but there's a chance of it getting better, there's no real risk. Now, if there's a chance it can go 1,000 times worse, then yeah, sure. But the chances of that happening are very little if you're already in a position where you need to make a change, whether they be in a poor relationship that people hang on for too long because they're afraid, they can't find somebody else that could be better. Single is better than a toxic relationship, right? Um, a job that pays the exact same, but you have better mental health is better than a job that has poor mental health impacts on you. So I think focusing on the fact that the worst case scenario is that it'll be the same as you're currently in really helps you remove the risk factor and just focus on the potential reward.
Oh, it's great. Like I said, like I think last almost 2 years now, people have been slapped in the face with change. And we've seen an increase in mental health deterioration because of it, because nobody was ready for it. So it's,
Oh yeah.
yeah. The one thing that I actually noticed was, you put in one of the answers that I ask all my guests before this is to, you want to, the effects of helping others. And this is imperative, but do you find it more important to help yourself first before you can help someone else?
100%. I don't think you can help people as effectively if you're not a subject matter expert or a growing expert in the area, or you've helped yourself in that area. For example, like I can't be a successful financial coach if I only know the theory behind finances. You can't be a great personal trainer if you've never worked out before or you've never done any martial art. Like you have to know how the impacts of it, not just the technical form of how to work out, for example, but the impact it does on your mental health, the discipline it takes to continuously work out, what it'll do for you personally. And that's what you're trying to coach people, is those impacts and those benefits, so that they can actually do the task at hand, which in this case is working out or being a personal trainer. So I definitely think you have to help yourself first and figure out how to go through those trials and tribulations so that you can coach other people how they're going to inevitably go through the same things that you went through.
Sidestepping a little bit.
Sure.
You said something that's quite kind of interesting, and I want to get a little bit more feedback on it. Discipline. Discipline can have a very eater totter kind of effect on people's brains. Like some people are like, oh, you're disciplined, you're going to be great, and other people like discipline. Oh, that means I'm tied down to just do this, and no matter what I have to do. And it comes down to, like, especially when it comes to the gym, people that are quote unquote disciplined and go to the gym 3 to 6 days a week, and out 90 minutes, 90-minute workouts and this and that. There's a lot of times, especially like this is coming from a personal trainer, where I don't want to go to the gym because I want to watch another episode of Star Wars. Oh, my nephews are over and they want to play video games. Oh, I want to go do this. Oh, I'd rather be on the beach. I'd rather be out with my boys having a couple drinks. What are some of the tools that you would help somebody to overcome, the squirrel brain when it comes to, like, I can do this more, which will give me pleasure, rather than go to the gym or focus on my finances?
Yeah.
When I can go and spend my finances and have fun.
Right.
What are some of the tools that you would use?
So I'll take it two different ways, because I think there are different tricks for gym versus finances, but they're kind of related. In the gym, what I used to do was, no matter what, have gym clothes in my trunk so that after work, I would go directly there. And this is back obviously when I used to work in corporate and it would be in office, but you going there, and I know it's going to be packed, and I know you're going to have to fight for machines. But I also know that if I go home, I'm not coming back. Like, I'm not leaving the house again. My day's over. So that was the main disciplinary trick that I used. And I just, no matter what, would go there. Like, there was never a time where I didn't have clothes. I had an entire gym bag with like 50 pairs of clothes all in the trunk. So like, I'm always going to have clothes. That's not an excuse. And then I'm already going to be outside of the house. So that's not an excuse. And so you're limiting out the excuses that you're inevitably going to have when you have a rough day. And even if I have to work late till 7 or 8 or whatever, I'm still going to go because I have to go before I get home. That's the only rule that I had. So that was really big. But also like limiting the questions of your squirrel brain. Like, do I need to go to the gym? Yes, is going to be the answer. Do I want to go to the gym is another question that may be yes or no. And then it could be like, I could do this, I could do that instead. All those questions are going to distract you from the main question is, do I need to go to the gym today? And if that answer is yes, because you haven't hit your 3 to 6 times, however much you've already set yourself to go, then that's it. Don't ask any more questions. Just go. And just refuse to ask any questions about yourself, because it's going to force you to not go. Really, it's going to make you question things of where you want to go or not. But if you just stop at that first yes and be like, I need to go to the gym today, all right, let's just go. And that really helps me. It's a simplistic, maybe a trick, but it works because you're not inviting the ability to detract yourself. In finances, it's a little different, where the delayed gratification, because finances is a longer term game to set yourself up. And I think what I would focus on is what I want to do with my money. And if it's, going out with drinks and I like that, that's fine. For me, it's traveling. For some people, it's things. I'm more of an experienced person. So, but everybody gets impulse decisions on things that they want to just do because of the moment. And I sit back and I ask myself, is going out tonight, for example, and spending $200 better used than $200, which is a couple nights of a hotel, for example? And for me, that answer is always going to be the hotel in a random city. Like, so I always ask myself that question: is this decision that I'm going to buy more important than traveling to the next place that's on my list? And 99.9% of the time, the answer is traveling is more important. And that's it. I don't ask any more questions again. I just then I'm not going to buy it, and I'm going to save up the money so that I can travel, or I'm going to save up the money so that I can invest so that I can travel. And that's just really the tricks that I use. I want to spend on the 1 or 2 things that are really, really important to me. And everything else is considered a detraction towards that. And I don't want to detract towards my main goal, because then I'll regret it. I'll regret not spending on traveling, regardless of how fun the night out was, regardless of how fun those new clothes are. And it doesn't matter to me. Traveling is more important. But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier of not knowing what we want to spend our money on. You can't answer that question if you don't know. If you don't know that you like traveling more than clothes, then how can you answer the question? And that's what I think a lot of people are confused about, is they want it all, but they really don't. They just don't know how to narrow down what they really, really want. And knowing that will allow you to really build the discipline to say no to things that are less important to that.
How would you help somebody to find what they really want? Because I'm total agreement with you. I think everybody wants everything, and you can't have everything.
I think it's you look at what they regret not spending that on. And this is again for finances specifically. Like, somebody who truly loves things won't regret not traveling. Right? The people who say they love traveling but spend their money on things and then say, oh, I really want to wish I traveled, I really wish I could have done this, their spending habits are not in congruence with their wishes. And that's kind of a hint that you would poke into. So I'd ask them, where would you like to travel? If they have like a bucket list and then they have things that they like to do, and you see they've done the research, but it's always like, oh, I don't have enough money to do that. You kind of know that their passion lies more on experience, but they're a little scared. They don't know how to do it. either financially or, planning a trip. So that's when you kind of focus on their words of where you could see either regret or excitement on a purchase. And that's kind of where I focus on. I focus on those two things and ask them to prioritize their things of what they want to spend on. If it's a trip, where is that trip? If it's clothes, what type of clothes? And like really narrow it down. And if people don't know how to narrow it down, that's a good indicator that it's not really something they truly want. Because if they could be extremely specific about where they want to, what they want to use their money on, that's a true indicator of that's something that they'll enjoy.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, my next question actually revolves around the ego. So basically, like you got the person to achieve their goals and they're this and that, but how do you manage the ego? Because I see it all the time, especially in the gym. You see it all the time. The gym, martial arts dojo, on the mat, you see it. The ego just starts to inflate. In the dojo, it's easy. It's easy to manage ego. It's just
Get tapped once.
one quick punch to the solar
Mhm.
plexus. You got no more ego. I don't care how big you are.
Mhm.
In the gym, it's a little bit more tricky, but how would you manage that with somebody for like, let's say, oh, I'm like halfway through my bucket list. Look at me, look how good I am.
Yeah. It is a little tough, and part of it is pride from the distance you've gone from where you started, and you should be prideful of that because that's progress that you've made, and you should be celebrated. I don't think that's where ego gets the bad rep, is like you need to be prideful about your accomplishments, or else what's going to push you from keep going. But there's also the flip side of why do you need to brag to other people just because you're doing it, right? That is where it's like maybe that person just doesn't care, is what I would say. Is like, does the person even care about your accomplishments? Probably not. So you bragging gives you nothing over them, because really what you're looking for is applause and praise from that person to tell you how good you're doing so that you can feed it and continue the cycle. But the worst thing in the world is telling a story, for example, and nobody laughing. That like hurts. So it's the same thing within your ego bragging or ego lifting, and nobody's going to give you a standing ovation. That's going to make you look stupid. So save yourself the embarrassment by not bragging. And that's really what I would say. Just stay humble, and the weights will do it for you in the gym for sure. Like you decide to ego lift and your back is all crunched up, and you fail the lift. It's pretty embarrassing. So that'll do it for you. But if you're somebody's chugging through the bucket list and happy, I would say that like nobody's going to give you that standing ovation. So don't even mention it. Be happy that you're doing it. Continue to do it, and hopefully you get through all the way. But nobody really cares.
That's true. That is true. That is true. I can tell you so many stories about me ego lifting.
I've been
Messed,
there too.
messed, I messed up my neck. I messed up my spine. Actually, I almost got paralyzed because of it.
Shit.
So
Yeah.
not a
It
fun day.
happens.
We have been through some of the hardest times the last 2 years. Financially, psychologically, physically, emotionally. What are some of the habits that you've put that you've implemented in your life, or that you've learned or you've solidified, that help you through these hard times?
Yeah, I go back to the fact that I used to consider myself an extreme introvert. And as introverted as I thought I was, the lockdown really showed how important social relationships are. And luckily, again, in Georgia, it wasn't locked down extremely as long as Canada. So I made it a point as soon as it started opening up and there was, concern that it may close down again and reshut down here. Luckily it didn't, but I made a consistent and constant effort to reach out to friends, reach out and meet new people. Some things that I used to never do. I used to be like, I have the friends that I have and I'll see them whenever I see them was my approach. And yeah, you need that. You need social relationships regardless of how introverted you think you are. I mean, the podcast was huge for me to meet people like this as well. And just have those conversations, because you don't realize the impact that has, especially me. I live alone, which is something I love doing. And I did until the lockdown happened. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of hard. I like the freedom, but I don't like not hearing anything for 24 hours, 7 days a week. So that was definitely a learning experience. And I think my ability to interact and socialize has greatly improved in the lockdown and subsequently afterwards, because I noticed the importance of it, something that I never really admitted to myself in the 24 years of my life before that.
From one introvert to another. So you're preaching to the choir. Hello?
Lost you.
Oh, there you are. Okay,
I'm back.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just saying from one introvert to another. So you're preaching to the choir. That's
Yep.
not any. It's a great thing, and it's a blessing and a curse all at the same time sometimes.
Mhm. For sure. For sure.
I found that routines, especially the morning routines, and we've touched up a lot about the morning routines. When did you actually start to, I guess, when were you first introduced to morning routines, and what was your experience like when you first did it?
Ooh. When was I first? So a mentor who told me about the 10-minute meditation in the morning was the first time I had ever heard of a morning routine. I was the type of person to snooze the alarm as many times as needed until there's absolutely like barely enough time to get dressed and go to my meeting or go to work or go to school back in the day. That was always me. So morning routine was not a thing at all growing up and in my early adulthood. And that mentor who told me about it when I started it was really helpful. Now I eat breakfast, which is something that I actually developed in COVID. I went through a stretch where obviously, because I was saying I didn't wake up early enough to eat breakfast, it would just be run out the door as fast as possible. Now I wake up, eat breakfast, have my coffee, do my meditation, and that's kind of okay. I've eaten, I've reflected. Let's crush the day, and that really helps put yourself in a rhythm. I know some people in COVID who were dressing up even though they were still working from home because it gets you as if you're not at home, and I think that's a great idea. To me, I hated it, so I never did it. I would wear, my house clothes, but the days where you do dress up, it makes you feel like okay, you're actually going to work or you're actually separating yourself from bed. And I think that's the big part of the morning routine. You're separating yourself from the stages of waking up to starting the day in a way that puts your mind in a way to be able to do that successfully. And the way you can compact that, some people do a cold shower. I'm not I shower after the gym, which is in the afternoon, so that doesn't work for me, but I know a lot of people do that and that wakes them up. For me, it's the coffee, the meditation and breakfast, and then I'm ready to go.
I hate the cold shower.
Can't do it. I have to have warm showers. I have to.
I did it for a little bit. I was like, it works like a charm, but oh my
Mhm.
God, just the
At
thought
what
of
cost,
walking.
right?
Yeah, it's like just the prep to go from like, oh, I'm all nice and warm. Like here in
Mhm.
Canada, like it gets like -20, sometimes -30. And you're like, it's already cold outside. I'm gonna stop into a cold, yeah, cold. No, no,
Not worth it.
no, not worth it at all. And that was part of my morning routine. Worked like a charm. I didn't get sick because there's
Mhm.
other stuff that goes on because of it. Uh, and for me personally, I worked through COVID. Like I had to go to work because I did work at a hospital.
Ooh.
I'm not sure that I'm going to be working there much longer, but anyways, that's a different story. Um, I find it extremely easy for people to fall out of the routines that they've created while they were working and this and that. How do you, how what are some of the tools that you would help people with to um, get back on track, like hop back on the wagon to get onto that routine that they had when they were working?
The common answer would be to do as if you're gonna work. So like, brush your teeth, comb your hair, get ready, shower if you showered before work, and act as if you're getting into that mindset. For me, I would definitely recommend not working in your room. like work either if you have a second room, where it could be an office, you could work in the living room, go to a coffee shop. Working in a room where your bed is at is very, very difficult. And it just like messes up not only with your sleeping patterns, because now your body's used to being in bed but awake. That way, when at nighttime comes, when you're in bed, your body thinks you should still stay up. So that was something that I really would do, is get out of your bed as early as possible and only be there for sleeping. So I don't have a TV in my room. I don't have anything in my room really besides a bed and my clothes, but just to get out of it as fast as possible and at least separate yourself via one room. Ideally, if you're getting a whole dressing up routine, that'd be good. But yeah, for me, it was at least working in a separate room. What was big for me. And some days, if I feel like I was getting stale, I'd work in downstairs in my living room instead of my office, or I would go to a coffee shop and just change it up.
Awesome. That's great. We're coming close to the end of the show, and these are the 7 or 8 questions that I ask all my guests. I'd just like to get your feedback on these 7 or 8 questions.
Sure.
With the increased people suffering from depression from this COVID stuff that we've been living through for the last 2 years, what would be the one thing that you could tell them to keep their hopes up?
You're not alone in the fact that a lot of people are suffering from the same thing. A lot of people think they're alone and they're the only person who's suffering. And the fact that they're not, and that there's other people that are also feeling the same way, is comforting, even though it's not a great thing that more people are suffering. The comfort and the fact that you're not alone is really big. And talking about it to those people would be really good. Like just sharing about it with your friends. They may be suffering as well. So that way they can learn from them, or they could just either get just catharsis and get it off their chest, would be very, very important.
Awesome. And we've been touching up on this next question the entire podcast. What is the one thing that you do daily that amplifies your ability to stay focused?
I mean, the gym is it feels like it's a cheating answer, but yeah, I work out 4 to 6 times a week, and I play basketball 2 times a week. So every day I'm doing something, and I have to, or else the day doesn't feel good.
Great. Great answer. If you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself at 20 years old, what would you tell yourself?
I would say to take more risks earlier. I was really straight to the book, no risks in my earlier 20s, and recently have been more open to that, because I think this lockdown really helped show how short it can be, right? Some people have lost loved ones, some people have lost their jobs, some people have lost a lot of things, and nothing is guaranteed. So as early as possible in your 20s, take as much risk as you can, and if it works out, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, it puts you again right back to where you are today. Similar to change and the fear of change that we talked about earlier, that's not really a risk. It just puts you right back where you are currently. So just take that risk and don't be scared.
Looking back, would you change anything?
No, I wouldn't. I think it's, there's always things that could have been done better, but that would have changed who you could have been today. And I'm happy and I'm comfortable with the person I am today, and I'll continue to change and grow. So the life experiences that I've had my whole life, childhood, growing up, college, corporate, and now this is perfect. And I like where I'm at now.
Awesome. What scares you?
Fear of unknown is more scary than fear of change for me. Just not knowing where my life will end up 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 5 years from now. You have a plan, you have a structure, you go for that goal, and inevitably it changes. Like, this was never part of the overall goal, was to do this in my life, and now I'm doing it and I'm loving it. So it's the fear of unknown is something that I wish I could just remove, because everything is unknown, but that's what's exciting about it. And some of it's anxiety, some of it's just like, what is going to happen? But if you don't take that risk and you don't take the change, and you just live life like everybody has always lived, you're not going to have anything fun either to experience.
Part of that is just the journey itself is exciting.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to hate that phrase too. Like I used to be like, oh, don't stop and smell the roses. Like, no, I want to get to the end destination. But it's grown on me. That phrase has definitely grown on me over the past few months.
That's awesome. Where do you see Successful Millennials Podcast in the next 5 years?
I really hope it helps the entire generation that I am a part of, the millennial generation, and specifically those in their mid 20s now. So those in the early 90s to late 90s in their terms of when they were born, helps them build that discipline for the 5 categories and achieve happiness in all areas of their life, in all those categories: money, health, career, purpose, and relationships. If they can build the discipline needed to do that and help others continue to do that, that would be the extreme, pinnacle of the goal of the podcast. And that's really why I started it, is to help thousands and millions to help achieve that goal. So that's kind of where I see the podcast going in the future.
It's awesome. What about you personally?
In the next 5 years? Yeah, so continuing to do the podcast for sure, continuing to travel across the world and live wherever life takes me. Public speaking is something that I also want to continue to bring the message across to others and help them not necessarily shatter their fears, but get more focused on their dreams. And I think a lot of people are going to continue to have fear until they start doing it, right? A lot of people, when you first did your first podcast, editing was scary. What mic to get was scary. How to post everything was scary until you started it. And then like, okay, this isn't that hard to edit. I could figure out how to do this. Like getting started and getting focused to start, to me, is part of the discipline that's more important than breaking down the fear of something that seems immovable object, because you're never going to get over that fear unless you start and unless you continue to do it when you fail and you continue to keep doing it. So bringing up the focus and the discipline of as many people as I possibly can while traveling and just living life really is my goal. Like I want to have fun doing it.
That's awesome. That's the whole purpose of it. It's just have fun while you're along on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people find more about you?
Sure. So most popular way is probably the podcast and Successful Millennials Podcast. Wherever you're listening to this conversation, we can also have that every Wednesday. And email me if you want to get in touch that way at financezilla@gmail. If you're more of a social media person, really only Instagram is what I use, but FinanceZilla as well there. And those are the 3 spots: the podcast, the email, and the Instagram for further connections.
Awesome. And we will post all your links with the show notes below, so everybody has easy access to get in touch with you.
I appreciate that.
Any final thoughts?
No, man, I think this is why people need to listen to podcasts, is to get motivated and to get continued reasoning to balance up why they're doing it. And the gym is something that I know we both hold really, really special. And I'm glad you're doing this to help others find that same passion and develop not only the physical aspect of it, but the mental, which never gets talked about enough. And that question on Vanity, if you could just go on a soliloquy on, I know you would love to. I'm curious to hear your answer, because I know you held back on our conversation, but I think that's the key thing that people get scared of on the most.
Yeah, the vanity part of it is, in short, people are afraid and they come up with these solutions to their own, what they see with their eyes. In the martial arts that I practice, they have a saying, never trust your eyes, because they will always lie to you. Always trust your hands, your feelings, you trust your gut. And like you said, like the biggest guys in the gym are the biggest teddy bears in the world, and they are more than happy, more than willing to help you get to them if you want. So it's the funniest thing, and they're the most kindest, nicest, friendliest people you'll ever meet in the whole world.
Yep.
Just like the martial arts masters, they're the nicest people. They could kill you with a touch, but they will not kill or harm a bird or a butterfly.
Yep.
So Sammy, thank you so much. Thank you so much
Appreciate it.
for coming on the show. Thank you so much for your podcast. Your podcast is great. I have been listening to it.
Thank you, sir.
And it is enlightening to see a young man such as yourself step up and help other young people become financially stable, because you and I both agree, schools do not do this. Schools do not show you how to finance, how to control your finances. I'm in my mid-40s and I'm just learning how to control my finances. And it's a shame. And to have young men like you coming out and, you know, talking about like, this is what you do, this is how you go about doing it. It's really, really, really great stuff that you're doing. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you for taking the time to come on my show and talk about like the gym and finances. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you so much, man.
Going through hard times is just a test. What you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world.
Hey guys, it's John from Resilient Reboot Productions and the Fitness Oracle. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and if you know anybody that's suffering from mental health issues that you know that this episode could help, please share it with them, as it is tailored to help people out there with mental health issues. If you are listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, or whatever streaming service that you use, please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, as it will help us reach out to more people that are suffering from mental health issues. But before you go, I'd like to invite you to a special program that we've created here at Resilient Reboot Productions called Band of Brothers. Over the years, we've discovered a system to help men regain their confidence back, just like overweight and depressed men that have lost their place in this world from all over this world. We've put together a group of men that are here to support your journey, showing you how easy it really is by implementing simple everyday actions that take little to no time out of your day. If you guys are interested, just click the link in the show notes below to get a one-on-one call with me so we can identify your issue and how we can best serve you best with these calls. Thank you so much again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.